Tuesday, January 13th. I'm Adam Walsh, and this is The Signal. Today on the show, we will talk about some of the common and uncommon beauty of this province. Flora, fauna, icebergs, the weather, rocks. We're going to dig into a bunch of stuff with a new field guide that's out for the island of Newfoundland. I feel like I shortchanged rocks there in the introduction there. Derek, give me Derek Wilton is back, geology professor, also joined here by Michael Collins, a Mun biologist, and we've got a contributor, Stephen Bruneau, Mun engineering prof. There's more to say about these guys, but Derek, I mentioned rocks. You seemed happy the last time you were here. We were talking about mining. So how you doing?
Good. Rocks are still there.
Rocks are still there, not going anywhere.
And it's the basis that everything is built on. So.
Yeah.
Everything, every tree, every flower, has rocks underneath it.
So they're,
they're the basis.
They've got an important role. So folks, it's Field Guide to Newfoundland and Labrador, the Island of Newfoundland. Like I said, Michael Collins and Derek Wilton edited it, compiled it. There were 20 folks contributed to it. We're going to give one of these away today. It is... quite the book, guys. First of all, having it in your hands, Michael, what did you when you saw it and felt it first? What did you think about looking at it?
I was quite amazed by it. It looks really very good because I wanted a field guide which people could actually use.
Yeah.
So it had to be easy to use, but also they need to be able to take it out with them. And a lot of the books we have are much too big. They're shelf books. So
yeah, you don't want a coffee table book for it.
That's right. You can stick this one in your pocket, take it out. It's got a waterproof cover. So given our weather, they're not a bad idea. You can use an umbrella as well.
Let me see. All right, what do we got here?
Well, I just point out that, it's actually, be colloquial, it ain't no coffee table book.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's it's not a hard cover, but it's a waterproof cover, so you can take it in a knapsack. Yeah. You can, if you got a big enough pocket, you can put it in your back pocket. You can take it in your glove box of your car and stuff like that, and use it. And that was the whole point: is that it is to be used. It's not something to sit on your coffee table and stare at.
No, when you're out and about, if you want to know stuff, like for example, I'm on page 52 right now. Ooh. Newfoundland chanterelle. Well, that's a good one.
Everybody's favorite.
Yes, but then it's like, let me see, shaggy mane, tippler's bane, and I skimmed through a couple other ones. Then it's we're into what else here? The boreal owl, snowy owl, rock pigeon. Yes, and then lichens and under the water stuff. Like there's sand dollars, green sea urchin. I mean, it's stuffed with things in, around, on the rocks and the land of the island, and also in the waters.
The nature
of it.
It's the natural world of Newfoundland. And essentially it's also in plain language. That's the way we wanted the contributors to write in plain language. And we each have our own jargon.
Yeah, of course.
And we try to make things as obscure as we can. But in this particular case, the contributors, everybody wrote it in terms of telling the story to the general public.
So where how did this? I know it took a lot of work to get this together, like years of work, lots of talking to people. Where did the idea for this come from, and then what happened?
It's a long story, but when I retired from Memorial, one of the things I wanted to do was to redo one of my earlier books I'd done with Jesperson and to have it published. So I went down to Breakwater, who had taken over Jesperson, and spoke to the manager there. And the manager wasn't quite as interested as I was in my own book, but she had another idea. She had seen these guides that you get to various states and various other places in the world on wildlife and so on, and she would like to see one for Newfoundland. And so she said to me, do you think you could do something like this? At the time, I was a biology professor who retired. I was also president of the Natural History Society here in St. John's. And I thought, I probably could do it because I knew a lot of people. And if I didn't, knew a lot of people who knew a lot of people. So that was the beginning of it. So then it took several years, of course, to accumulate the number of people, because obviously I knew something about plants and animals, but I knew nothing about fish, and I didn't know anything about lichens and so on. So it took some time gathering people. Some people were interested, others were too busy doing their own things. So it took quite some time to get all the people together. But we had a fairly good group together, and you see the result here today.
What is a considerable amount of time? Like, how much time did it take?
Well, let's see, we started this in 2010.
Okay.
So he'd actually been speaking to Anne-Marie Burkle. I'm just looking at my notes here.
Yeah.
She was the editor at Breakwater at the time. And as Mike says, that's what he did. He collected us as a group of contributors, he sort of experts on the aspects of Newfoundland nature. And this started, as you said, 2010. I remember having coffee with him in the student center, and he's saying, I need somebody to talk about rocks. And so he took me on. And then it took time to bring them all together. And then about 3 years ago, I used to kid him over the period of time. It's like a 15-year overnight success, okay? So I'd be kidding Mike every now and then. I'd say, hey, Mike, how's that thing going every 6 months? And they finally, 3 years ago, he asked me to come on board and help him co-edit it. And I've been there ever since. So the real focus was trying to get this done in 3 years. And in the past year and a bit, Beth Oberholzer has been the editor and our design person at Breakwater, who really brought this together. So the beauty of the book is hers, right? She picked the pictures, put the things together, et cetera, et cetera. So she's just a fantastic graphic artist, and she's done a lot of other things too. So we're really, really happy to have her there. Part of the problem with the 15 years is there's 1,000 photographs in here, and it's everything. So it's not your average book where you have a single editor who can go through it and my life kind of thing. It's a whole bunch of things, and you've got 20 cats you've got to try and herd together, and
historically that's pretty hard to do.
Oh, it is. And each person has their own way of expressing things, but again, we have this full group of people, and it's come to fruition.
Oh, I'm just thumbing through this, and I apparently I tend to call everything a shrew, but no, no, Adam, deer mouse, meadow vole, southern red-backed vole. There is the masked shrew on page 206. The pictures are fantastic, and like you guys said, it is such a it can fit in a little backpack or a pocket. Stephen, how did you get roped into this? Because you're the iceberg guy.
Well, first thing I'd like to say is that it's much better to tell my wife that we have a vole in our cottage than a mouse.
Yes, vole is such or a Norwegian rat.
Right.
Yeah, no, honey, we have a vole problem. Well, that doesn't sound too bad.
No, they're cute.
Yeah, adopt them.
My contribution to this book is fairly minor. I'm involved in the iceberg section, which not to be a surprise to those people who know me, but I might just take a moment here looking at this beautiful book that both Michael and Derek have put together, and I look at this list of contributors, and I being one of them. If I might just
go for it.
We have Edward Andrews, Doug Boyce, of course, Joe Brazel, myself, Steve Bruneau, Norm Caddo, Michael Collins, Jim Cornish, Tony Dickinson, Gene Hertzberg, Lloyd Hollet, Bob Hooper, Mac Pitcher, Paul Regular, Fred Smith, Alan Wittig, Derek Wilton, Joe Wroblewski. That's a pretty talented field of people, and you're really getting some discerning information, quite concise in each of those areas. So a wonderful guide for the generalist coming to the island wanting to get a feel for things.
Yeah, I know so many people who would like that. And speaking of which, for the listeners, a question for you for the rest of the show. What parts of the common or uncommon beauty of this province fascinate you? If there's something you hear in this conversation that speaks to you, give us a call. Or if you just want to add something to the discussion or even ask a question, give us a call, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. You can text us, 709-327-8206. email thesignal@cbc.ca. We will be giving away 1, possibly 2 copies of this book today. So if you give us a call, you automatically go in the draw, but you can also just email us, and you can either say book or, like you've been doing lately, kind of putting a little bit of an anecdote or a story or thoughts in with your email on it. Because, like I said, when I got 2 copies last week to look at, I was pretty impressed by it.
I just
Go
like
ahead.
to point out with the contributors, though, too, unfortunately, 3 of them have passed
Right.
away. Alan Wittick passed away in 2022. Bob Hooper passed away earlier this summer. And Fred Smith passed away just before Christmas. So I've got to acknowledge them and their contributions.
Yeah, it's one of those things when you get a lot of people over a period of time, right? Lives go on, and but at this, work lives on too.
Hey, exactly. That's what we'd hoped, yeah.
So then, for you guys, when we talk about common and uncommon beauty of Newfoundland, and this is for the island, right? Because Labrador would be a different conversation in a different 15-year stint.
That'd be a 50-year book. God,
There's so much in the big land, obviously, to cover. But what is it about having gone through this, the 1,000 pictures, or contributing to it, Stephen, like yourself? When you think of the uncommon and common beauty in and around the island of Newfoundland, what is it that speaks to you? Is it your specialties, or are there other things?
I think the wide variety, because I was astonished at the number of, say, lichens, the number of fungi,
Yeah.
and we're just discovering new ones all the time. And I'm just looking at the island and saying, wow, we have 1,000 of this and 1,000 of that. Most people wouldn't even be able to identify 5 lichens, maybe.
No,
Yet,
not at all.
we've got 1,000, and it's just utterly amazing. And the number of people who are specialists in these areas that we haven't even included in the book because they were busy or they had other things to do. There are so many people who have an incredible interest in what's around in nature in Newfoundland. There's no question about that.
Well, it's such an interesting thing when you put together something like a field guide, and you're like, this is. There's a lot in here, right? 1,000 pictures. We go through a lot, but there's even more that you could find and put in, like so much more.
And again, it was done in plain language.
Yeah,
So
of
we
course.
took the simpler aspects of it in our different sections. We didn't get into complexities and numerous pictures or jargon and stuff like that. To me, the biggest thing I think is as a geologist is that this place was annihilated. It had nuclear winter.
12,000 years ago.
12,000 years ago. There was absolutely nothing left here.
Is it a kilometer of ice that covered the whole island?
Exactly. Yeah, that's about a kilometer,
Ish, yeah,
various
yeah.
age, sizes and stuff like that. So it was just stripped off completely. And those glaciers came in and sculpted the landscape. So what we see is actually the rivers have been tried to re-equilibrate, but they haven't. They've got a long time to do this. So there was nothing here. And everything that we see here came, as Mike points out, it either walked here, or it flew here, or it blown by the wind here, or it swam here. And so our animals and plants reflect that we were like in Eden, I guess, without serpents, because we're starting to get serpents now.
They're coming,
But,
yeah.
but everything was completely wiped out.
Yeah.
And we started anew 10,000 years ago. And if you go to some of the Rocky Mountain parks, you can see where glaciers have receded. And you can see how the land comes back and the trees come up and grow and stuff like that. We've had that for 10,000 years. And
So is this also why sometimes when you're out in certain parts of the province and you see there might be like a giant boulder just sat somewhere, you're like, how'd that get there? And it's just kind of been sitting there since like the ice.
that's an erratic.
Yeah.
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 So geologists love erratics because they're
Tell
kind
me
of
more about an erratic.
too.
Yeah. So what does an erratic mean?
An erratic is a big boulder. I mean, the glaciers come through and they just scrape everything away, but they also break the rock up and they'll just leave these big boulders on. You can see them up around Butterpot Park and places like that. It's fantastic. But then, again, that 10,000 years, but in that 10,000 years, some of our animals, I just got a list here, beaver, marten, black bear, fox, lynx, and caribou, have all evolved into subspecies
Right.
in that length of time. And so they're different. And then we get all these new animals come in. There's a whole list of other animals that have been brought in here. The moose came from 4 animals that were introduced into Howley in 1905.
So Lilacs aren't included yet, but moose are. Interesting.
Well, it's because, again, the contributors, right? Everybody's got to get your moose by.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think you can do a book like this without having moose in it, right? Because people be like, well, wait, come on now.
Well, you'd have to. Lupins are another one that we left out, but because, again, that person didn't feel that, thought they were garden escapes. They weren't actually native plants to the land.
And there's a discussion around that. Right?
Yeah, there's a discussion about it. But again, that's not our duty to sort of say, put in lupins.
No, exactly. You guys are the ones who so you went around. Michael, talk to me a little bit more of just how you would go to experts, because you said some wanted to, some or couldn't because of schedules and this and that and the other thing. But what were those initial conversations like when you're kind of like, hey, I'm doing a field guide, and for the ones who said yes, what do you think attracted them to being part of this?
I think it gave them the opportunity to share their expertise with the general public and to, let's say, reveal natural history from the island to a lot more people. So that's what interested them. And a lot of these people had not published things, let's say, in journals and so on. So they had a lot of information, but they'd not shared it with anybody. So this was an opportunity for them to put it out to the general public.
They're like, finally, there's somewhere I can put this stuff, and it is like when you look through it, you're like the amount of info in it. One of the contributors, Lloyd Hollet, is on the line, owner and operator of the Insectarium for Newfoundland and Labrador. Lloyd, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you guys doing?
Good,
How you doing,
man,
Lloyd?
good. Thanks for coming on the show. Tell us about what you contribute. Well, first, what were your thoughts when approached to be part of this?
Oh, I thought it was a great idea. There's nothing out there right now that has like a good comprehensive natural history for Newfoundland, like a field guide, and to have all of it there together in one book was great. Just so happy that it's finally on. I can't wait to put it in our gift shop for the summer, actually.
Oh yeah, no, of course. What were some of your contributions then? Like, what kinds of things did you have to put in?
Well, I did the insects, so I just sort of picked out whatever I thought people would encounter in Newfoundland. There's so many insects here. There are literally thousands of insects. So, there's only maybe 40 or 50 or whatever that people would actually see on a fairly regular basis. So I sort of zeroed in on those and did a little description. And if we could find some photos for them, we included photos. So it wasn't too hard. At the Insectarium, I get calls during the summer. I'll get maybe sometimes 2 or 3 a day. People want to know what this is. Can I send you a picture? And it's usually always the same sort of thing. So after 27 years around the Insectarium, I'm pretty sure, the common stuff is what had to go in the book. So
as you run the Insectarium, what are the biggest questions you will get in the run of a year, or what ones do you find more common, and are there ones that are a little bit more peculiar or unique?
Well, probably the most inquiries I get would be for giant water bugs.
Yeah,
Because
I was just looking. I'm actually
people see them,
page 160, looking at it right now.
Yeah, and when people see them at their home, because sometimes they'll fly in the evenings after dark, and they go from water body to water body. So if they're flying along and it's a bit of a wet evening and they see a driveway, it looks like a pond. So they'll land on the driveway, and once they land, they have a very hard time getting in the air again. So people just find them by their lights or in their driveway, and they're blown away by something that big here in Newfoundland.
Are these the ones that people call toe biters?
Yeah, they're supposed to have a reputation because they can be in swimming holes and they can bite your toe. They have a pretty good bite. They're not poisonous, but they have a pretty good bite. So you wouldn't want to get bit by one.
To read from the field guide, this is the largest insect in the province, with some specimens reaching 7 or 8 centimeters in length. They range from a dark brown to a greenish color, have powerful front legs for grasping prey, and a beak-like mouth with which punctures the victim. They are formidable predators, catching other insects, tadpoles, and even small fish. They are found in ponds and large bogs, like you said. And then the last line, they have a very painful bite.
Yes.
I've never seen one of those, but oftentimes, like on Facebook throughout the summer, that's the one I see posted when people are like, "What the heck is this?" And then you see the range of comments underneath. So now there's a field guide to help you with it.
That's right. And a lot of the butterflies, the same thing. There's 47 types of butterflies in Newfoundland on the island, and if you include Labrador, there's 63. That's from years ago when I've studied them. And, there's only probably maybe 8 or 10 that people see on a regular basis. There's some species here I've never seen. You don't need every butterfly in the field guide. You just need the ones that people are going to encounter.
Yeah. Butterflies, the giant American water bug. Any other standouts in your opinion from what folks like to talk about? What interests them when it comes to the bug life of the province?
Wasps would be probably one of the other main things that people are interested in. Hornets, or we like to call them, but stuff that people can get stung by. Most people are fairly familiar with bees, but the wasps are more painful, is the best way of putting it, I guess. So
I love your note on the European earwig at the end. Earwigs are harmless and do not crawl into people's ears despite the name and superstition. I mean,
yes.
Yeah, it's just, have years of hearing that. It's nice to, I learned the difference as I was getting older, but it's another nice little addition here.
And the thing about the earwigs, too, the ones that had to be curved in, that looked like puncture things, are the males. The females are curved out, and the females are very good parents. When they hatch their eggs, they look after their babies for a while. So, unlike most insects, but
excellent.
One of the ones I've always been scared of in the woods is horntail sawfly. I see those things and I just get terrified. And it turns out when I read your thing here, that's not really a stinger. It's an ovipositor.
Ovipositor, yes.
What's an ovipositor?
It's just what they use for laying their eggs into the wood. They drill into pieces of wood and lay their eggs inside. So,
but they can hurt.
Look pretty nasty. And same thing with the elm sawfly. It's huge, but it's harmless, right? But it looks like a big wasp, and it can be like maybe up to 2 inches long. And
I've seen one in a helicopter one time. We were in a helicopter, one of these things flew in, and everybody but jumped out.
And that's the thing to do typically in a helicopter.
No, it's okay if you're on the ground.
Yeah, exactly, right? Lloyd, question for you. I mean, we're talking about stuff in this field guide, right, for Newfoundland, but for yourself at the Insectarium, how much time do you field questions from folks around invasive species and those changes that we've seen in? Because we just kind of talked about when moose were introduced to the island, but I'm just wondering on the insect side of things if there's stuff that's caught your attention because of like climate change and that type of thing.
There's a few insects that we've seen a big expansion on the island, especially like the big polyphemus moth, and it's all over the island now. Years ago, you might find them out in the Codroy Valley, but now they're all over western, central, and eastern Newfoundland, and they're huge. And I get a lot of inquiries about those. They're harmless, of course. The big one, I guess, in the last few years, not so much insect, but are ticks. And ticks are becoming more common in Newfoundland now, and have people bring them into the Insectarium that came off their dog, and so that's the kind of thing with climate change. That's what we're seeing mostly. Things like things expanding their range, but ticks are killed off by really cold weather, but we don't get to really cold weather anymore. So
as things change, if folks want to, if they're curious about the Insectarium, where do they go? What do they do?
We open on 24th of May weekend. This year we open on the 15th of May, actually, and we stay open until Thanksgiving, and open 7 days a week. From when we open, we don't close until Thanksgiving Day. And go to our website if you need any information. And we got lots of cool stuff coming up this summer. So
excellent. Hey, last question before you go. Are you related to Sandy Hollet? Because she just sent a note to the show. I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's my wife.
Yeah, I thought that because the emails, my husband made a contribution to the book, and we haven't seen a copy yet. We're excited to see it. Thank you. Happy New Year from Sandy. So,
cool. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Sandy, for listening.
And we'll certainly be carrying the book in our gift shop this summer, so pretty excited about it, actually.
And your gift shop was one of the best in Newfoundland.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We get that a lot.
All right, Lloyd, thanks so much. Happy New Year, and thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Lloyd. That's
Oh, you're
great.
welcome. Thank you. Take care, guys. Bye.
That's another point, I think, that just the interest of some of these particular animals and plants that we have. I mean, you can identify something, but some of them are such a fascinating history. How do they get here? What do they do?
Totally.
I mean, it's just amazing. The variety of insects is staggering. We only have a small proportion here on the island, but boy, oh boy, that's true with most other things. I mean, moose we're familiar with, but there are lots of other things here as well, which have fascinating life histories and things that they do, which we know nothing about.
No, exactly, right. We just got another email in. We'd love to get a copy of the book discussed today. Love that it covers a multitude of life forms in NL. Most field guides are not specific to the province and are limited to one class, such as birds or mushrooms, for example. So that's, it's so nice, refreshing to hear someone to be like, hey, the field guide with all this specific for the island of Newfoundland. So thanks for that email. And folks, if you do want to get in for the draw for the book, the signal at cbc.ca for emails. You can text us, 709-327-8206. And if you want to call, if you want to talk about the uncommon or common beauty of the island, well, and also, you can talk about Labrador too, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. Here with me in studio, we've got Derek Wilton, Michael Collins, and also Stephen Bruneau. So Derek and Michael put the book together, and there's 20 folks contributed to it, and Stephen has the section icebergs. Talk to us about icebergs, or whatever else you want to talk about, but
Well, icebergs are a continuing fascination, aren't they, for us?
Oh man,
yeah, huge. Whenever we have anything that pulls up close to a town, along the Avalon, for instance, and it, in May month when clothes are out on the line and dandelions are there, there's just an enduring fascination, and it does not matter if you're from here and you've seen thousands. It's still magnetic.
Oh, I look the same. When back in my Naval Reserve days, I remember we we left Halifax, sailed through the Strait of Belle Isle, went into Goose Bay, and we were coming out. So these are back in the days when you had the old roll, like the snappy roll film cameras, folks.
Slide
imagine. So we were there on the just in the aft part of the ship and taking some pictures of like little icebergs. And the deck officer at the time was like, guys, save your film, because we were going up to Baffin Island. He's like, you're going to see, there's going to be way more. And it pictures of that trip, I will never forget it, right? Because they're just so beautiful.
They are. I think that we have a special thing here in Newfoundland, though, Newfoundland and Labrador, but in particular during the spring, because the icebergs are obviously and are born in the Arctic, and they are a northern and southern hemisphere polar sort of creature, but they're so far out of context here. And it's as far south as anywhere in the world, that we have these things coming in, and it isn't some terribly remote place. We're obviously international airports and whatnot, and you can very quickly go and see icebergs. So it has always remained a fascinating part of our province. So there's a role for it there in this beautiful field guide, but by no means is it going to steal the show. What I like about this book is that it's kind of like having a little private tour from each of the experts in each different area. And I look at it also as almost like a scavenger hunt. Wouldn't it be kind of fun? You're out on a walk, maybe it's on the West Coast, going up and the tablelands or whatever, and maybe maybe you're not going to see an iceberg up there on the tablelands. But if you go to the right chapter here, you've got about 6 or 8 or a dozen different things, types of lichens or birds that you might see, and it's kind of fun. I could imagine a well-used one of these books having little check marks next to each of these photos.
It's quite the bingo card, right? As you explore.
Tablelands, you got to remember the rocks, though. They're really important up there in the tablelands.
Oh,
here's the geologist about the rocks again. Oh my!
And more to this point, I remember one of the other contributors in here is Doug Boyce.
Yeah.
And Doug may or may not remember this. Perhaps he's done it many times. But some years ago, when I was a scout leader, Doug Boyce took our group, and we went down to an open quarry there in Manuels, and we had a ton of fun digging around for trilobite fossils in an area that we were permitted to do so. And he provided just the right level kind of interpretation and fun to inspire the kid. And I've always remembered that. And I've always thought, this is just so accessible. Well, I suspect, now not having read all the sections yet of this book, but I suspect we're getting the same kind of personal touch in each of these different
trilobites are in here too, aren't they?
And each person is different. And Doug points out that one of the features that helped define plate tectonics was the fact that in Western Newfoundland we have a trilobite species that's completely different than the species we have in the Manuels River. And
The CBS trilobites,
that's right.
as
So
we
they're
call them.
completely different. And the reason is that they were on different sides of the ocean 500 million years ago. And
Right.
It's because the
where
weather is
plates
better in
crashed
CBS.
together.
See, God's country. And these are the fair weather trilobites
Right.
as opposed to the,
the tough
not to get too technical.
But it's a great thing, and it's a really important point that Newfoundland had in sort of forming the idea of plate tectonics was, we got these fossils over here, we got the same family, but different species, and they came from different parts of the world.
Well, and this is the part, because we started the show talking about 12,000 years ago, right, with a kilometer of ice above us and everything. But in the fossil part of the field guide, a lot longer. You know.
Oh my God! Good Lord. I mean, it goes back to in Newfoundland, the island. We have to have rocks that are about 1.6 billion, which are not extremely old. In Labrador, they get up to almost 3.9 billion. But we have these fossils at Mistaken Point, and now at Spaniards Bay, and now up in Bonavista in the Geopark, where we have the early stirrings of complex life. And Duncan McElroy and the people at MUN are just teasing things out of these rocks, the first evidence of mussels. Not mussels in like you eat mussels, but muscle mass.
Muscles, like pumping iron.
Exactly. And the first evidence that these things could move. So the first, the story of life is actually being told here. And we've still got rocks to peel back and go back. And it's amazing that way.
Well, that's what I mean. I just think it's to include fossils in the field guide. It's such a
And rocks.
and rocks, fossils and rocks. But to include all of that in the field guide, it's such obviously, like you said, a foundation of everything for this story to get up to the days of moose and the toe biter, to use the nickname, and everything else. Like it's the exploration of everything island related. Stephen, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking that if you if you were a real enthusiast for going on whale watching trips, or if you were coming to the island because you've never seen an iceberg before, you could be disappointed. You might come at the time of the year when things just aren't around, or the weather's terrible and you don't get out on a boat and you don't see a whale or whatever. Well, at least this guidebook, I mean, it'll tell you about what you missed, but there's a certainty that you're going to find something, even on a miserable, foggy day, that's in this book, and find something very interesting about it. There's just an enriched sort of, content here. Lots to see when you're beachcombing. I see, the urchins and other shells and that sort of thing for people who
seaweed. I mean, I didn't know there's so many seaweeds in the province. And we can't forget, we also have this night sky in there. Fred Smith did a great story
and
on the night sky. And Newfoundland is unique in that because we have not as much light pollution as you'd have in a lot of places in North America. So you can have a good sky to look at these at the stars. I think the other interesting thing, going back to your icebergs, though, is that we sit in this really weird triangle because you got all that stuff, the Gulf Stream coming, or the Labrador Current coming down, then you have the Gulf Stream coming up from below. So we're a mixing point for all that. And so, as Mike would point out, I mean, some of the species, we're at the northern limit of some species, but we're also at the southern limit of other species. Plus, we get these birds that blow across the ocean in the middle of winter from Europe and from the Arctic and places like so we can see things here that you'd have to go a lot further to actually see.
This is why I've been so interested in the conversations, because the climate conversations and climate change conversations we have on the show, when you have the baseline of what is from here, right? When you have the line for a field guide and these types of conversations of like, here's what's been here, right? And here's what's slightly newer, here's what's been, here's the rocks and all of that. But then at that northern limit, as things keep shifting, and it's like, wait, that's a new one. That's not supposed to be here. You're increasing the education for folks to know what has been here and what can be new.
Yeah, I just want to point out, I didn't really answer much of the question on icebergs and the fascination with icebergs, but I will put in a little plug. one of the upcoming shows in the Nature of Things, Suzuki's Nature of Things, is on Newfoundland icebergs. It was a program
Really?
shot here this past summer.
Okay.
And I certainly had an involvement in it. Others did. It was an enormous production. And they spent a lot of time here and in Twillingate and elsewhere. They've gone diving on bird and everything. There's a lot of good stuff. I haven't seen it. But they also went to Ilulissat in Greenland, the homeland for iceberg. And looking forward to seeing the show in its final, its final version, because they had a very professional team with, like I said, drones and divers and the whole work. So upcoming.
We used to always, it was the growlers we were told to watch out for when you're on ship when we were up in the north, because it's like, that could do some damage.
Oh, absolutely. I think our ferry sank, didn't it? One of our old, is it the Leaf ferry? I can't remember, or the William Carson? One of them went down,
Tell folks what a growler is if they don't know,
Well-
as opposed to just a sports team.
Well, there was, the naming scheme for icebergs took many scientists many years. They're small, medium, and large in terms of icebergs. But as one gets down into smaller size, we would say bergy bits and growlers. And, a bergy bit might be a bungalow-sized piece of ice. And then smaller again, perhaps a bus-sized or thereabouts, might be a growler. And that's a particularly dangerous piece because, of course, the ice is the same hardness. It's still an incredible mass of ice, but it can be practically invisible in the seascape.
Kind of like just below the surface, and yet it's like this big chunk of ice that's just waiting for you to go.
Well, no doubt you can be in wave conditions where the heights of the waves are masking the size of it. And in fact, the name growler, I'll put it out there, and I'm willing to be fact-checked, but the name growler really comes from a plunging sound that can happen when that piece of ice is oscillating in waves. So it can move up and down and up and down. And if the frequency is just right, it can really oscillate and plunge its way in and out, making a thumping, grinding sound, as you sometimes hear with waves breaking on shore. So this is the growling sound of a growler.
I did not know that. We've got Mr. Richard Whitaker is on the line from Portugal Cove. Hi, sir. Happy New Year. How you doing?
Thank you. Same to you. I'm still here and still doing my public nuisance things and whatever.
Oh, I love it.
This is quite important. Yeah, there are a lot of markers in the year. I missed the early part of the program, so forgive me if I'm repeating something
okay.
you said. But there are a lot of markers in the various times of year that I look for. The first butterflies in the spring come when the crocuses come out, and they're the tortoise shells and commas, The person you're talking to obviously knows a lot about ice. It's my understanding that the southern ice limit is somewhere around Cape Race. Would I be right about that?
Yes, on our coast, oftentimes. We, about once every 4 years, used to have ice into Conception Bay and into the harbor.
Yeah.
The bets are off on our trend and the trajectory now, but certainly well offshore, the sea ice goes well south of where we are here.
Yeah. Well, my understanding is that is also the southern limit for the northern cod larvae, They drift down on the Labrador current and... by the time they get there, they're quite able to fish, and they swim back to the north from there. So that's another thing just down there, and I've been down to Chance Cove a number of times. Quite often there are a lot of birds in the petrel family fishing off there for some reason. I guess they eat a lot of plankton of some sort or another, so... there are plenty of things to see around during the course of a year. And there are other butterflies that appear. You'll see the black swallowtail, the short-tailed black swallowtail, which is actually a distinct species for Newfoundland. Not it has relatives elsewhere, but and you can look for them in. Mostly around, sea coves in the sea where there's a particular plant that they lay their eggs on and so on. The caterpillars are gorgeous emerald green and black when they grow larger, but they start out looking little black and white bird droppings, which is kind of interesting. Whether that's safe to move on their behalf or not, I don't know. But, you know, and so there's so many different things to see at the different times and so on. This winter I was on the bird count in Portugal Cove, and lo and behold, there were a bunch of humpback whales bubble net feeding.
Wow.
You know, this is Boxing Day, right? And a couple of them actually swam by us about a couple of 100 feet away offshore, you know. So, you know, this is a wonderful, terrible, marvelous place.
Oh, that's so true, right? It's, yeah, so many layers of everything.
Yeah. And one of the other butterflies I look for in particular is the white admiral, which appears about June-ish, I think. And they're unique in the sense that they're caterpillars overwinter as caterpillars, I understand, on the trees, you know, and so on, rather than as pupae like other ones do, you know. So there's plenty of things of interest.
No shortage, sir, no shortage.
Yeah, and it varies, as you know, across the province. You know, if you drive across the province, you'll find that when you get to Clarenville, all of a sudden the trees by the roadside are aspens and so on.
I love that shift when I drive across the island. It's fantastic.
And the other thing has always been sort of fascinating to me as you get out around, you know, Holyrood, looking across the landscape, and you see, I think they're called occasionals, the rocks that were dropped by the ice. Would that be right?
Erratics, yeah.
Erratics, is that it?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Very close to on the occasionals.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, and somewhere beside the road there's a big rock with capstone on it, you know, where it must have been a soft layer, something just below the surface that eroded, you know, washed or dissolved or something, but you know, somebody painted some peculiar messages on it at one point, I remember. Anyway, there's much to see and much to wonder at and enjoy.
I appreciate the call, as always, Mr. Whitaker. And, glad to know you're still up to trouble. And, thanks for calling, and Happy New Year again.
Right on, and bye-bye.
All right, cheers. Dick Whitaker there calling from Portugal Cove. And, White Admiral, as he mentioned, page 155, a distinct black and white butterfly that is uncommon in Newfoundland. It can be seen from early to late July. The eggs are laid on birch, poplar, and willow. The fully grown larva is black with spines and a white saddle. So I tell you,
We get it all.
there's no shortage in here. We had a couple emails and texts came in. So before Christmas, we had Alan Doyle on talking about his new book. So the Claudine Morgan sent a text. Just having finished Alan Doyle's new book and listening to today's show, what a perfect combination for a twin set gift pack, because Alan's book talked about traveling all around the province, right? So it was a really nice read and just kind of reacquainting yourself with some of the geography and how folks are.
Really nice. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, no, it was fun. And same with this one, right? So when you look at like the nature side of it as a field guide, and then Alan's book, Claudine, I agree with you. Here's another one from Ryan Edwards. We're listening from our home in Bregas Junction cabin area, wondering how to go about entering the draw for the field guide to Newfoundland that you and your guest is talking about. Well, Ryan, he says, love the show. Keep the great job. Thank you. And you just entered yourself into the draw, so congratulations. And another one, would love a chance at one of these field guides. The missus and the dog, Bowie, would put it to good use. We've spent our summers since COVID exploring and getting to know every corner of the island. So that's from someone named Justin. And from COVID to now, and I mean, COVID still exists, obviously, but you had folks go the sourdough route, you had some folks go the gardening route, and others went on the let's get outside and explore in the woods type of a route, and some people did all of it. But again, to have a field guide on the island, to kind of, for that bingo card of what am I seeing, where is it, you know? Stephen, you're going to say?
Oh, no. I, just thumbing through the book here, recently out in the woods looking, and those little rascals, those snowshoe hare tracks are everywhere in the woods. But do you see them? They're those white. They're snow white at this time of the year. But this book has a great little pic here and a description of the snowshoe hare, which doubtless those are. But there's also a section here on tracks, snow tracks.
Oh, nice.
This is his.
Oh, Michael. Well,
All right, go on, Michael. Talk to us about some tracks.
I like to think of that as my specialty. I don't get out very much nowadays, but in former days I spent a lot of time. In fact, I'm trying to develop another book now, Winter Nature, which will incorporate tracks. And in fact, I was looking through tracks I have drawn from last night, just looking through my records. And it's absolutely fascinating because hare tracks, squirrel tracks now, up in Pippi Park, you can see. And you said you don't see the hare very often. If you stay still enough and you know the right area, you'll see a movement and you'll see the white hare.
That's it. They have to move, eh? Yeah.
They have to move. And it's absolutely, and of course, moose. I love the moose. Moose is my favourite creature, I think, of all, because so many stories I could tell about going out into the woods and seeing nature. It reminds me of the one time I was not feeling very well I think it was October, rutting season for the moose. And I decided to go out to Cochrane Pond Provincial Park and have a walk around and just clear my mind. So I walked up this trail through the woods, didn't see anything of interest, so I started on the way back, and I suddenly looked down at me. There were moose tracks. They hadn't been there when I was walking up.
No.
The moose had been following me the whole way up, and I had no idea where it was. So I thought, well, rutting season, if it's a male, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah. Good call
But
on
you
that.
never know. But moose it's just amazing. I remember another Sunday being up in Pippi Park, and I knew there were moose around, but I could see the twigs which had been gnawed on, the tracks in the snow, but I could never see the moose. And at the end of the winter, I think most of the snow had gone. I was walking up with my dog, and I suddenly heard a snap, and I knew it was a moose. I must have trodden on something. So I motioned the dog to move over to the side through the trees to an open area, and we just sat there. Sure enough, a minute later, this male moose came out, stood there, knew we were there, looked at us and said, "Okay, you've found me now. You've been waiting the whole winter." And then said, "I've got other things to do," and wandered off. But it was just utterly amazing.
I love the reminder, like all of what you're saying, 100%. Right? Like for me, growing up, I would go with family, Turnover River area as a kid, also fishing in around Cullis Harbor area for the May 2-4. And even when you didn't quite see the wildlife, there would be tracks all around of this, that, and the other thing, just as the reminder of like, you're not alone. We're here.
Yeah. Last year this happened at a cottage just outside of town here. There were, it was unambiguous otter tracks on the ground. I hadn't seen one there, but this was a long skid and then a few bounding footprints and then a long skid as if this is sliding on its belly. And I did a fair bit of homework trying to figure out what it was that had left these tracks, and it looks like a signature otter.
Yeah, otters will do that, slide down the hill, but mink will also do it on occasions as well.
It was a bit big for that, but I
otter
didn't
will
see it.
certainly do it, yeah.
It's just the tracks, and one wonders how much traffic goes on during the summer when you don't see the tracks or aren't aware of them, like myself.
We just
were
had.
in,
Sorry. Go ahead.
We went to Butterpot Park years ago, my wife and I, just after COVID, 2020, and that bad winter. And you go near the end of the park where the park wasn't open, where the outhouses are, and here was piles and piles of moose poop. Right, just all over the ground. It's as if they knew the bathroom was there. But I think what it was, they just pounded the ground down enough that was their moose yard, and that's where they spent the whole winter. Right.
Wow.
So there's lots to see.
No, it's wild what you can notice. We just had, I think we've got about 12 folks in the draw so far who have sent things in, or from the call to the text and emails. The latest one. And thanks for the picture on this. We absolutely love exploring our island and spent our summers visiting every nook and cranny we can. There are very few places on the map we haven't been, and soon we'll be able to pin in every single place on the map of the island. Here's a shot of us visiting Tilt Cove and Bragg's Island with Hare Bay Adventures. Thanks, and that's from Ryan. Thanks for the picture. Thanks for the note. Yes, I did a story. Tilt Cove, I think 2014 we went in. So like one of the cool things about when you're with CBC, you get to you get to see parts of the province that perhaps, unless you're like Ryan and his partner, you don't always get to go to, right? But it's nice to hear of folks going around checking things out. And yes, you too are, 2 books, 12 entries. So, but 2 of you will win a book at the end of the show. We've got about 4 minutes left. Just any other thoughts on the natural or unnatural beauty? Because I love the animal tracks a bit, and thinking of like just from wintertime to summertime. So seeing moose tracks in the mud, to also driving in to visit my parents in the Glovertown area the other year. Just watched a fox. One of those times where you just see a fox at night, and then you kind of understand where the cartoons back in the day got it from for its movements, and you see the tracks afterwards. What's on your list for what you haven't seen? Like for me, I've not seen a lynx. I've never seen a real actual beaver in Newfoundland, even though years of going to Salmon Nature Park as a kid with school, just seeing the beaver dam, but no beaver. I saw my first Newfoundland frog just this past summer, which was I was kind of like, I always knew we had them, but just had never seen one. So there's always things. What about you guys on the list of what you want to kind of see out there?
Moose I've seen a fair number, and caribou. I like caribou as well. I'm always amazed following caribou if they're in front of the car, as they sometimes are if you go down the southern shore. They're very thin legs and these huge hooves. And also amazingly, apparently one of the books that I'd read said that they could actually skate on the outside of their hooves in winter on the ice.
Yes, Spy.
Is that giant eagle still around the island?
Oh, the one that Stella's eagle? Yeah, haven't heard from it recently.
Oh, is that the one that got misdirected and it looks like a drone up in the sky? Yeah, like a predator drone, but it's actually a bird.
Yeah. Apparently the biggest, biggest eagle.
For me, living around Kitty Vidi, there's a couple. You see just
eagles
flying over East White Hills.
And there's also different gulls there in the winter than there is in the summer. And
so
the
those are
gulls
different
change.
because they're just as loud.
They're just as loud, just as noisy, but they do change their
And there is a
colorings and
section in
stuff,
the
I
book
think.
on winter gulls, because
I saw
Kitty
that, yeah.
Vidi is an area which is known in North America because it has a lot of European and other gulls that come across. And there's an article in the book there which details and pictures the various gulls you see at Kitty Vidi in winter.
Yes, Spy. I need to, before I mail these out like I always do, I need to look through that again before I get
There's lots of good stuff in there. You'll be...
1,000 photos, right? There's 1,000 photos.
Over 1,000 photos in there. Yeah.
You were asking what might be on your list. It just occurred to me. I spend a lot of time looking at the ocean and icebergs and things, and I don't recall seeing killer whales.
I've seen them once here.
But of course they're
Yeah.
around.
There's that run that the way it used to be phrased to me, I don't know if this is right, was that there's a run that will go up summertime and be around here. I saw them once here out myself. I've seen them on the west coast of Canada a fair bit, but here, and to see orcas go up in the Atlantic is magical. Just it is the coolest thing on the bingo card.
On my list.
Let me see. 2 more notes. Hi, Adam. I remember a conversation many years ago with my friend John Murphy, former mayor, about iceberg ice in drinks. He wasn't fond of the concept as locked into that piece of ice could be a bug that once ingested may cause medical challenges to that person. His concern, today's medical profession wouldn't know anything about that bug being 10,000 years old. I always found an interesting concept, although it didn't stop me from using iceberg ice in my drinks. One of my careers was iceberg management for oil and gas on this rock. Regards, Pat. Thanks for that. Some other time I'll tell a story about stopping to get a couple chunks of ice for a Navy party back in St. John's. But that was a long time ago. Another great episode while working as a tour bus driver out west. I referred to the field guide to the Canadian Rockies by Ben Gadd on pretty much a daily basis. I'm sure that this book will prove invaluable to people employed in the tourism industry here. It will help all of us better understand the place we call home. I can't wait to get my hands on it. Oh, yeah, and we're out of time. Thanks for that, Ed. We're going to do the draw now. I think it's 14 and counting. Guys, thank you so much for this. It's a lovely book. Thanks for coming in and sharing your expertise and talking about it.
Thank you so much for inviting us in.
All right, that is it. Okay, we got one winner here. Arlette, give me another one. Noreen Atkins, congratulations, and the other one is she's doing there's a wheel that actually gets spun on her computer for this. Yeah, she's Arlette Lazarenko. But I tell you, will we run out of time? Will we know the second winner? She's working furiously. Justin Crowley, congratulations. Noreen and Justin, congrats. We'll get your mailing addresses. Thanks, folks. We're out of time. Bye.